Boozed and Confused is a comedy and weird topic podcast. Adult language may be used, probably by me. While our episode topics may be educational in nature, we are not responsible if your children start dropping the F-bomb to their kindergarten class. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Carolanne.
I am Matt.
It is Wednesday.
My dudes.
Just so everyone is aware with what I'm working with, before we started recording, Matt pretended for at least 3 or 4 solid minutes straight that this was an ASMR channel, with like a wine glass and a bottle opener. And then he just yelled into the microphone. So I deleted it. So you're welcome. So welcome back to another episode of Boozed and Confused. We're sorry. We're late.
Yeah, we're sorry.
I swear to God, I will stop this right now. Okay.
All right. That was it.
Okay. So we have a good episode for you this week. We're keeping it with the spooky theme, but before we get into it, we have some items for you. The first one, we actually have a promo from our friends at Twisted and Uncorked that's going to be played right after this episode. But I think if you guys like us, you'll like them. We've done a promo swap with them before, and they're really into like true crime, paranormal, conspiracy stuff, and they also enjoy the boozy side of life. So
I was going to say their pod name sounds a lot like ours. Something and alcoholic.
Yeah, so give them a listen. They are fantastic, and the promo will be right after this episode. But before we get to the end of the episode, or even the beginning of the episode, some other items. What?
Are we sponsored now?
We're not sponsored. Who the fuck would sponsor us?
Wow.
Who listens to this and they're like, "Yep, I want my brand on that podcast."
That guy who thumbs down. Thumbs
Yeah,
down guy.
No, that's fine. Okay, so what else do we have? If you are on social media and you want to hang out with us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube. And I think actually all of our episodes are like auto posting to YouTube now, which is kind of cool. So if you choose to listen there, hello, welcome. If social media is not really your thing, you don't want to like send us a DM, but you want to send us hate mail. We don't have a PO box. I'm sorry, but, you can send us an email at boozedandconfusedpodcast@gmail.com. Always love to hear from everybody. But Instagram DMs are the fastest way to get to us.
Yeah, you can follow me at pottymouthmatt. I think that's my
But it's like
Instagram name.
PODDY.
Yeah, potty. It's clever.
Very funny. Very clever.
Yeah. Because, well, I don't post anything to any of my social media because I'm horrible at it. But yeah, you can DM me.
You could.
I'm giving you the eyebrows
Okay,
right now. I'm giving some eyebrows.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those episodes. I think it's because you're drinking wine. This is like a chaotic good, Matt.
I'm like 2 sips into this wine.
Oh, good. Okay. The next item is if you like the pod and you want to support us, you can do so by just following, subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leaving us a review. If you choose to do so. It really is the best way that you could support us and any other small podcast that you listen to, and it's always really appreciated. So if you want to do that, that's super cool. If you take a screenshot of the review and send it to us, we'll send you some Boozed and Confused stickers for free in the mail. It's USPS, so it might be there, I don't know, 9 years from now, but we'll send it.
Yeah, I want these out of my basement.
They're currently sitting on the bar.
Yeah, my pub has turned into a baby clothes storage station.
Okay, excuse me, mister. I just got all these Pokemon cards today. Look at all the Pokemon cards that I have. And that's what's on the bar.
They are set up because I'm going to open the rest of my cards after this episode.
You should start your own podcast of ASMR, but it's like a Pokemon card opening niche.
I'm pretty sure we've already got that niche covered by someone else.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. All right. Before we get into it, what are you drinking?
Well, you already said I was drinking wine.
I don't know what kind of wine.
It's Apothic Red.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yes.
really nice. It's red.
Yeah. Hints of red wine.
Hints of grape.
Yep.
Red.
Yep.
It's a 10.
Perfect.
It's a 10.
Yeah, I don't know anything about wine. I'm not a wine person.
It's a blend.
I like the blends. I do, because otherwise I can't tell anything. So
You know what though? When we were in
Michigan?
We were in Michigan and we went to that wine tasting.
Uh-huh.
I said I don't like white wine. And she poured me white wine, and you know what? I liked the white wine.
You know, there you go. You gotta live on the edge a little. That's all.
What are you drinking?
It's called Drumroll by, what is this, Odell Brewing.
Odell. I actually have.
It's a hazy pale ale. The art is very cool. 10 out of 10. I don't think I've actually had this before. Oh. All right, let's just take a little sip.
There we go.
That's really nice.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
I brought 2 beers in. One was Good Behavior by Odell, and the other one was what? Drumroll. Drumroll.
Yep.
Yeah, mine's Crushable IPA. So I have like a sip of wine left, and now a very light IPA.
A beer. All right. Well, should we get into it?
Yeah. So I'm flying blind. I'm not looking at any notes. I'm going full reaction video. Since we're doing YouTube, I think those are very popular right now.
Uh-huh. Or like when they do like the duets on TikTok.
Those ticky tacks.
Yeah, but like the reaction part most times is just really stupid. So
You know what's really stupid? The cover picture on like YouTube videos where everyone's like,
Oh yeah.
I almost fainted.
Yeah.
YouTube is awesome, but it's also like
terrible.
So bad.
So bad. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the Smurl family. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
The Smurfs?
Smurl, Smurl, Smurl family.
Never heard of the Smurls.
So the Smurl family, back in the 70s, they're said to have gone through one of like the worst hauntings, of recorded history that lasted like 15 years. So for this really intense 2-year period, the family is subjected to physical assaults, apparently by this mysterious demon and like a horde of ghosts. Nobody in the family was left alone or singled out. Pretty much everyone was affected. Even like the family dog had a run-in with one of these angry ghosts. And out of all the families in like history that have claimed to have been haunted, this family claims to have some of the most aggressive entities of like modern times, and lasted for like a pretty substantial amount of time, like 15 years, which is pretty terrible.
Yeah, I think like the worst I ever encountered was like a weird like 3-day period, and I've already talked about this like on the pod.
The Nintendo on the toilet.
That was a DS on the toilet. There's some other stuff. But that was like 3 days, and that was generally tame, very like PG.
Yeah.
What like for the family, were there like ghost dogs?
No, there weren't ghost dogs. Like their dog was
affected by ghost dogs.
Affected by the ghost. All right, so the Smurl family's haunting became so bad that the Catholic Church actually got involved in this attempt to like exorcise the demon. I feel like this is very stereotypical like exorcism movie. But the Smurl family even went so far as to call in like Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are two pretty famous demonologists. And even after that, they like still could not get rid of whatever entity was like causing them this anguish. And they pretty much just lived with the remnants of the haunting for like the entirety of the 15 years. So in the 90s, the Warrens had, their experiences with the Smurl family, and it was made into a made-for-TV movie called The Haunted. So if you've ever seen The Haunted, it's based off of the Smurl family haunting.
Are the Warrens the couple in all those movies?
Yes.
What are those movies called?
There's so many of them. It's like pretty much if somebody is possessed by a demonic entity, it's like, oh, get Ed and Lorraine on the phone. I also think that they are the ones who have like Annabelle.
Oh, I think they're dead now.
Well, yeah. But I think like the Annabelle
doll
movie, yeah, I think that's them too. So this family experienced everything from like the ghosts attacking the children to like attacking Ed and Lorraine when they tried to intervene. And so, of course, there's this really large question about whether or not the Smurl family actually experienced hauntings or if there were like other things going on. I don't know if y'all ever watch like Ghost Hunters, but they kind of go through a list of like, here's all the things that we would check out that are usually the causes of people feeling haunted. So it could be like some weird electric thing in the house. I don't know. Or like just creaky doors or some shit like that,
or like Mr. Jenkins from down the road.
Yeah, it could be Mr. Jenkins from down the road. So yeah, I don't know, but we'll get into it. How about that? We'll get into it. So 1974, Jack and Janet Smurl move out of this like flood damaged home that they had, and it forces them to move to West Pittston, Pennsylvania, and they move into a duplex that's been described by many as like a fixer-upper. And Jack and Janet and their kids live on one side of the duplex, and Jack's parents, John and Mary, live on the other side of the duplex. And it was pretty soon after they moved in that they started to experience these hauntings. So the first instance that they have is like pretty, I don't know, it's like pretty small stuff, right? So like a tool goes missing, there's like a stain on the wall that seeps through the paint, which I feel like if you have an older home, it's maybe expected that you'd have like weird house things happen. It's not like they bought a new construction, but these are like pretty benign things. They're small. It's like nothing super scary, but then like really weird shit started to happen. So the kitchen appliances start to go up in flames and like they're not even plugged in.
I was going to say, if they were plugged in, it's clearly something wrong with the wiring.
Yep. Nope. And then they get the smell, and there's this like odor that goes throughout the house at random times. And it was like putrid. Is that a word?
Was it like sickeningly sweet?
Oh, it's not
like,
sickeningly sweet. Is that
like
putrid?
Poo-poo smell? No. Well, putrid is like, you could go a number of ways with putrid.
Yeah, okay. So maybe this is a better description for it. Ed Warren described it as something akin to rotting flesh.
Well, no, that's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah. So right after all of these haunts start, Mary unfortunately suffers a heart attack, and the family has a hard time paying their bills. And so it seemed like the haunting was really sort of taking a toll on the family. So there were a lot of manifestations of these haunts that they would get. But one of the worst ones that was described is this, like, I don't know, blood-curdling scream and, like, moans that would rip throughout the house at pretty much all hours of the day and night. It was not like, you know how people associate, like, 3 a.m. with, like, the witching hour?
Yeah.
This would happen, like, any time of day. And a lot of the sounds took on the voices of the Smurl family, which is like kind of fucked up if you're like a demonic entity and you can like mimic the sound of the family that you're haunting just to give them a little extra like, know.
What if it's like a ghost parrot?
Oh my God. Yeah, maybe. And the Smurls weren't the only ones who heard it, so it's not like they were all crazy. Apparently, like, their neighbors also claimed to hear screams coming from inside the house when nobody was even home. So
That's pretty
it's
awful.
like a little,
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
like, that would make me feel a little bit better and a little less crazy. And so obviously time goes on, the haunts increase from sounds to like floating black creatures and shadow people in the house. And so Ed Warren later claimed that he saw, quote, a mucus-like smoky type substance that began to whirl and materialize on the mirror, spelling out filthy obscenities, telling me in no uncertain terms to get out of the house. Which is pretty...
At least they're literate.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very well spoken for ghosts.
Dear Ed Warren, loser, get
Thumbs-
out of my house.
Thumbs down. So it didn't stop at just like these appearances or these screams. It got significantly worse. So just a content warning. This next sort of haunting talks about sexual assault. So if that's not something you're interested in listening to, it's not a ton of detail, but maybe just fast forward like a minute or two. So both Jack and Janet claim that they were sexually assaulted at separate times on numerous occasions. So first, Janet claims that she's woken up in the middle of the night by this like unknown figure sexually assaulting her. And then Jack claimed that while he was watching a baseball game in the living room, he was also assaulted in the same way by a succubus. And he later claimed that while he attempted to say the rosary, the creature dragged him around his room.
Oh my heavens, why on earth are they staying in this house?
Yeah, so that's the other question too, is like, is the entity attached to the house or has it become attached to them? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know how that works.
To be dragged? Oh my goodness.
So, like I had kind of mentioned, no one in the family really made it out without feeling some sort of effect of the haunting. So one of the daughters that they had was sliced open by a flying wall fixture. The family's German Shepherd was thrown against the wall, which I feel like anytime you watch a movie like this, it's like, you know, whatever about the people, but then the dog gets hurt and you're like, oh, the bastards.
I can't believe they did that to the dog.
Janet claims that she was grabbed by this creature before being like hurled across her living room. And on another occasion, this invisible entity bit Jack in the face and threw another one of their daughters down a set of stairs. So like pretty violent. It's not just like your like haha knock pictures off the wall to scare you kind of ghost. Like this is like really troubling.
It would take one occurrence. Maybe two.
Yeah.
Maybe three.
Yeah. I would say like two. First of all, if this were you and like one of your tools went missing,
I just blame you.
You would blame me. You wouldn't be like, oh, there's a ghost in this house. It would be my fault.
For the record, I'm holding up a screwdriver
that was in our kitchen.
In the kitchen for some reason.
Because I was using it.
That's not where the tools go.
Yeah, I was using it and then I forgot about it. It's fine. So when you kind of think a little bit more critically about some of these alleged experiences that they had, some people say that really all of these attacks have one thing in common.
Wait. Let's see if I can get to the bottom of this. Ooh, no, I'm not going. I don't know. I have no idea.
So some people claim that all of these attacks were actually just unfortunately cases of domestic violence, that the Smurls were in the middle of this like very turbulent marriage and that they had like screaming matches and physical altercations, and that they pretty much turned that into like a ghost story to cover up whatever it is, you know, that was potentially going on.
Oh.
Nothing has ever been verified like that, but that's just like what some people say after hearing about the sort of like commonalities of violence between all of these. So unsurprisingly at this point, Ed and Lorraine Warren get involved. They had a lot of really famous cases. So like the Amityville Horror was also Ed and Lorraine. So they come their way into the Smurls family, but the family was like pretty reluctant about bringing them in because they didn't want additional attention on themselves. And after the investigation, Warren said, "The Smurls are truly a family coming under a visual attack. The ghost, devil, demon, or whatever you call it is in that home." And he claimed that, Ed Warren claimed that on his first night in the house, he experienced a major cold spot and saw a shadow person. And he explained, "I did not have to wait moments when the very thing I felt was a drop in temperature of at least 30 some degrees. Then a dark mass formed about 3 feet in front of me." Ugh, I just got the chills as I read that out loud.
Is there a ghost in this house?
Ghosts in this house. There's some ghosts. Don't shake your head at me. If you could turn this into an ASMR, you know what? Whatever. It's fine. We'll stick to our day jobs. And so, after this like shadow person appears, Ed claims that something in the house began throwing things around the house, including the mattress in the master bedroom. Yes.
That's a big
thing
to throw.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just say we just did we just got rid of a box spring, and we have like a lower bed now. But that mattress, that thing be really tough to throw.
This episode brought to you by Tuft & Needle. Not just your average bed in a box. This one is better.
Because we sleep on it.
Just take our word for it. See, this is why nobody wants to sponsor us.
Do you dream of a fluffy, sleepy wonderland that the second your head hits the pillow, it's the next morning and you feel like $1 million? Or are you a new parent? Like a 2-month-old who wakes up every half an hour?
I just want to say, for the record, for every fucking time I've had to pause for whatever reason, Matt immediately starts to pretend to do some ASMR shit. This one was just a bike shop where he was diagnosing a loose spoke on the wheel. So back to the Smurl family. God, we're never going to finish this episode. Okay, so another incident that happened, Janet Smurl claims that she's in the kitchen one evening and the house gets really cold and she feels like this, like, you know, presence, like a hideous presence. And that's when a black human-shaped form appeared in her kitchen. It's faceless, but it's more tangible than just a shadow. And the shape passed through her wall and appeared to Mary on the other side of the duplex.
Oh my heavens.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Oh my heavens.
No, thank you. And so one of the things that's like pretty evident from a lot of these stories that come after Ed and Lorraine is that this like presence absolutely hated religious iconography. Mm-hmm. So, you know, as they kind of talked about how he was like trying to pray the rosary and was like dragged around the room. One night, the Warrens tried to draw out one of the entities with a group prayer, and they got more than they bargained for.
What did they get?
So I appreciate the enthusiasm. Thank you. So in the middle of the prayer, something began screeching, "You filthy bastard, get out of the house." And the house started shaking, and 2 female ghosts that looked to be from the colonial American era slunk through the house.
It's always colonial. It's always colonial. Old school.
Always. This was the only time that the appearances of the colonial ghosts were recorded, but it's possible that, you know, one of these 2 was the succubus that assaulted Jack while he was watching his baseball game. So,
how does one become a succubus?
I don't know. That's an episode for a different day. I don't have that material on hand.
Well, there's also, what's it called? An incubus.
Like that band?
Which is the other side of like succubi. It's incubi.
Oh.
Succubus and incubus.
I didn't know that. The more you know. So because it's discovered that the demon or what have you did not like anything affiliated with religion, they bring in some priests from Scranton branch of the Roman Catholic Church, and they brought them in to like bless the home, perform like multiple exorcisms on the house, and none of it helped.
You said Scranton?
Yes.
So it's like what, like
Doo-doo-doo,
Michael Scott?
doo-doo-doo.
It's like Michael Scott.
Oh, that would be a fantastic episode of The Office, actually. Yeah, so what's interesting is that the priests go to the house, they perform the exorcism, they do these blessings. They say that they saw no harmful activity while on the property, which I think is really interesting because if it's so motivated or like if it's so hateful of religious stuff, you feel like the epitome of religion, which would be like these priests, would maybe trigger them into doing something to combat that sort of thinking. Janet claims that the demons moved back and forth between the two sides of the duplex to sort of avoid the banishment from the priests.
Oh, it's like a caveat in the rules of being thrown from a house is, oh, I'm just gonna go to the neighbor's place.
Yeah.
Same building.
I'll be right back. Yep. So 15 years go by and the Smurls are finally like, you know what? It's time to move. So they moved to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and it's not like there's no follow-up basically of whether or not they experienced any continued hauntings. But what's really interesting is that the Warrens do this like in-depth investigation of the house, obviously, and they pin down exactly what's assaulting the family. So Lorraine, who's also a clairvoyant, claims that there were definitely 4 entities roaming the duplex. The first was an elderly woman who mostly kept to herself. There's also an older man who died in the home, which is very similar to the Enfield haunting, which is a case that the Warrens are also involved in. Lorraine said that the violence that the family experienced came from the ghost of a young woman and a demon who was able to control the other entities.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't like that. So now that we're getting to the end of the episode, we're going to ghost hunters this a little bit. Ooh. We're going to dissect some of what we know. So the Warrens claim for sure the Smurl family is haunted by this like gang of ghosts that was led by this demonic entity. But there's also a potential explanation for the nearly 2 decades of hauntings that they went through, and it was mass hallucination. So in 1983, Jack goes under the knife for complications stemming from a case of meningitis that he had as a child. And so he said that doctors were trying to remove water from his brain. And it's possible that he actually had a brain tumor and that's why he was experiencing such violent attacks. But again, the Warrens say, like, the house is definitely haunted. There's definitely a demonic presence there. So what's really interesting is that there's this professor named Paul Kurtz of State University of New York at Buffalo, who said that the haunting started with Smurl's brain impairment and that the rest of the family followed suit, and that it's possible that the family fell under the sort of delusion through which Jack was living, but like it doesn't really explain why they would go along with like all of that kind of behavior for like almost 2 decades.
Right.
So that's the Smurl family haunting. That's what I've got. I'm sure there's a lot more that you could kind of like dig into. I think Jack unfortunately recently passed away. I say recently, but I think it was maybe 5-10 years ago.
That's recent.
Yeah. And then Lorraine Warren obviously recently passed away. So it's kind of a newer haunting, but also still kind of one for the history books. So I don't know. That's what I got.
It's a little spooky.
It is a little spooky.
Just a little spooky.
It's a little spooky.
It's not too spooky. If it's water on the brain, it's not as spooky. But I don't know. You can definitely see cases where people share like a madness. Yeah. Like a shared. I think they call it folie à deux. Madness of 2.
Maybe like some carbon monoxide poisoning or
right,
something.
I was actually thinking about like a gas leak or something.
Did you ever hear the Reddit story where this guy, I don't remember what subreddit he's posting in, but he's like, yeah, so I think somebody is breaking into my house and like playing a joke on me because I keep finding these random Post-it notes with like random notes written on them in my house, which is like pretty
That's terrifying.
fucking creepy. And then finally somebody's like, hey, you should definitely get your house checked for carbon monoxide. And sure enough, the guy was like being exposed daily to carbon monoxide and writing the notes himself and just having no recollection of it because of the carbon monoxide poisoning.
But what led him to write the notes?
Who knows? The poisoning. It like makes you hallucinate and go crazy.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, that's what I've got for you today. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna really try hard to get next week's episode on Monday.
Oh, it's gonna be a me episode. So
it's gonna be a Matt episode.
It's gonna be questionable results.
And yeah, we thank you for bearing with us as life has gotten a little busy, but you know,
you can blame the producer.
You can blame the executive producer always. She's the fall girl. So stay tuned for right after this for the promo from Twisted and Uncorked, and then go pop over to their little pod and give them a listen. I think they release episodes every Tuesday, so you can listen to us Mondays, you can listen to them Tuesdays, and I don't know, find something else for the rest of the days with your
Joe
week.
Rogan's a Wednesday
Fuck
podcast. He needs support.
We'll release our ASMR podcast on Thursday, so you can keep a lookout for that.
I'm looking for new things to hit with this screwdriver.
Oh my god. Okay, well, just hit me in the head with it. All right.
Ooh.
Thanks so much for
nice.
joining us this week and for bearing with us. I hope you enjoyed the haunting of the Smurl family. I'm sure they didn't. And we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hello, Twisted Humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting?
Then this is the podcast for you. We're bringing the most intense stories that will keep you up at night.
Join us every Tuesday for a glass of wine and a dose of true crime. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is
Twisted and Uncorked.